The survey vessel Quiet Wanderer was falling from the sky. Captain Threll gripped his command chair as alarms screamed throughout the ship. His insectoid body trembled with each violent shake. The engine had exploded without warning, and now 12 crew members were going to die on an unknown planet. Brace for impact. He shouted through the communication system. The ship hit the ground hard. Metal screamed and tore. Glass shattered. Then everything went silent. Dr. Yethis opened her 4 eyes slowly. She was alive. Her thin insectoid legs were shaking as she crawled out from under a broken console. Around her, other crew members were groaning and calling out. The emergency lights painted everything in dim red. Is everyone alive? Captain Threll called out. 11 voices answered. They had all survived the crash. But when Yethis looked at the damage around them, she knew their problems were just beginning. Corveth, a young amphibian engineer, managed to get the sensors working. His webbed hands moved quickly over the damaged controls. What he found made his blue skin turn pale. "Captain," he said quietly, "this planet is classified as a death world. Extreme gravity, dangerous atmosphere, and the life forms ... He stopped talking and swallowed hard. "What about the life forms?" Threll demanded. "Predators. Many predators. And some of them are already moving toward us." The crew worked fast. They sealed the broken sections of the ship and created a safe area in the cargo hold. Yethis managed to send out an emergency signal before the communication system died completely. Now all they could do was wait and hope someone heard them. Night fell on the planet and the temperature dropped. The crew huddled together for warmth, listening to the strange sounds outside. Then they heard something new. Footsteps. Many footsteps. Something was circling their crashed ship. Yethis activated an external camera that still worked. What she saw made her freeze with terror. Creatures. 4-legged creatures with thick fur and long snouts. Their eyes glowed in the darkness. They had powerful bodies built for hunting and killing. Sharp teeth filled their mouths. There were at least 20 of them, moving together like a military unit. "Pack hunters," Yethis whispered. "Highly intelligent pack hunters." One of the creatures approached the ship and sniffed at the hull. Then it lifted its head and made a sound that echoed across the empty landscape. It was something between a bark and a howl. The other creatures answered with similar sounds. The crew watched in horror as the beasts began testing the ship's walls. They scratched at weak points. They pushed against damaged panels. They were looking for a way inside. The cargo bay door, Corveth said suddenly. "It was damaged in the crash. It will not hold." Captain Threll ordered everyone to build a barricade. They used broken equipment, storage containers, anything they could find. The sounds of scratching and pushing grew louder. The creatures had found the weak point. Far away in space, the emergency signal reached Sector Command. Admiral Voss, a tall reptilian officer, read the report with concern. A survey vessel was down on a death world. The nearest rescue fleet was 18 cycles away. Far too long. The crew would be dead by then. But there was one ship closer. A human patrol vessel called the Shepherd's Watch. It was only 6 cycles away. Admiral Voss hesitated. Humans were new members of the Galactic Union. They were Deathworlders themselves, known for being unpredictable and dangerous. Many species did not trust them. But what choice did he have? He sent the orders. Back on the planet, the barricade was failing. The creatures had broken through the cargo bay door and were now pushing against the wall of containers. Yethis could see them through the gaps. Their golden eyes reflected the emergency lights. Their breath created small clouds in the cold air. "This is Dr. Yethis of the Quiet Wanderer," she said into her personal recorder. "I am recording what I believe will be my final observations. We are about to be killed by a pack of predatory creatures. They are organized and intelligent. They have hunted us with patience and skill. I want the scientific community to know that these animals display remarkable." She stopped talking. The barricade had fallen. The largest creature stepped through the opening. It was massive, with gray fur marked by old scars. Its eyes locked onto Yethis. It opened its mouth, revealing teeth that could crush bone. Yethis closed her eyes and waited for death, but death did not come. Instead, she heard a strange sound. The creature was not growling. It was making a different noise, almost like a question. She opened her eyes slowly. The beast was standing completely still. Its head was tilted to one side. Its tail was moving slowly back and forth. Behind it, the rest of the pack waited in silence. The creature took another step forward, sniffed the air near Yethis, and then sat down. It simply sat down and watched her with those golden eyes. Yethis did not understand what was happening. None of them did. But for now they were alive. The pack leader made another soft sound. Around the crashed ship, the other creatures took positions. They faced outward, watching the darkness beyond. They were not preparing to attack. They were standing guard. And in the cold night of that death world, 12 terrified aliens huddled in their broken ship while the beasts they feared surrounded them like protectors. None of them could explain it. None of them could understand why predators would choose to guard prey instead of eating it. But somewhere in space, a human captain named Alina Vasquez received the mission briefing. She looked at the images of the creatures and started to laugh. "Well," she said to her crew, "it looks like some good boys have been waiting a very long time to come home." 2 days had passed since the crash. Dr. Yethis had stopped counting the hours. She was too busy being confused. The creatures had not attacked. Not once. Instead, they had done something that made no scientific sense at all. They had brought food. On the first morning, the pack leader had dropped a dead animal at the entrance of the cargo bay. It was some kind of 6-legged rodent. The beast had pushed it toward the aliens with its nose, then sat back and waited. When no one moved, it had made a soft whining sound, almost like it was concerned. "It is offering us food," Yethis had whispered. "A predator is offering us food." The behavior continued. Every few hours, one of the creatures would bring something. Dead animals. Strange fruits. Once, a creature brought a container of water it had somehow carried in its mouth, but that was not the strangest part. At night, the pack spread out around the crashed ship. They took turns staying awake. When dangerous sounds came from the dark forest, the creatures would growl and bark until the threats went away. They were protecting the aliens from other predators. Young Corveth had become the focus of special attention. One of the smaller creatures, barely more than a juvenile, had attached itself to him. It followed him everywhere inside the ship. When Corveth sat down, the creature sat next to him. When Corveth was scared, the creature would press its warm body against his amphibian skin. "It will not leave me alone," Corveth complained, though his voice was not really unhappy. "It has chosen you," Captain Threll observed. "For whatever reason, it has decided you belong to it." The creature looked up at Corveth with big brown eyes and made a happy sound. Its tail moved back and forth so fast it was almost a blur. Far across space, Captain Alina Vasquez was pushing her ship to maximum speed. The Shepherd's Watch was a small patrol vessel, built for speed rather than combat. Her crew of 8 watched her with curiosity as she prepared for the rescue mission. "Captain," her first officer said carefully, "you seem very relaxed about this situation." Vasquez smiled. "Because I know something Sector Command does not." She pulled up the images of the creatures on the main screen. Her crew looked at the 4-legged beasts with their sharp teeth and powerful bodies. Most species would see deadly predators. Vasquez saw something very different. "Those are dogs," she said simply. "Dogs?" her first officer repeated. "I do not understand." Vasquez leaned back in her chair. 300 years ago, humans tried to colonize that planet. The colony failed. It was too dangerous, too hostile. The colonists were evacuated, but they could not take everything with them. They had to leave behind their animals. She pointed at the screen. "They're dogs. They're loyal, faithful, loving dogs, left behind on a death world to survive or die." The crew stared at the images with new understanding. "They survived," Vasquez continued. "They went wild. They adapted. They became stronger and fiercer. But somewhere deep inside them, the old programming remained. The bond that humans and dogs have shared for 40,000 years. What kind of bond? Her first officer asked. Vasquez smiled warmly. Dogs love. That is what they do. They protect the people they care about. They are loyal beyond all reason. And somehow, after 300 years alone on that death world, they still remember. She stood up and began walking toward the supply room, Captain. Where are you going? To pack the important equipment, Vasquez answered. Treats, toys, and someone find me a good rope for playing tug. Her crew exchanged confused looks, but followed orders. Back on the planet, Dr. Yethis was making detailed observations. The pack had a clear social structure. The old scarred male was the leader. Beneath him were several experienced adults who seemed to be his lieutenants. The younger animals followed orders from the elders. But what fascinated Yethis most was their communication. They used different sounds for different meanings. A low growl meant danger. A high bark meant excitement. The soft whining sound seemed to express concern or affection. They have a language, Yethis said to herself. A simple one, but still a language. The pack leader approached her. She still felt fear when those golden eyes looked at her, but the fear was getting smaller each day. The creature sat down nearby and yawned, showing all of its deadly teeth. Then it lay down and rested its head on its paws. It was not threatening her. It was just being near her. Why? Yethis asked out loud. Why are you protecting us? We are not your kind. We are not your pack. The creature's tail tapped the ground once. Its eyes were calm and watchful. That night, something changed. The pack leader stood up suddenly. His ears pointed forward. The other dogs gathered around him, all facing the same direction. Then, as one, they lifted their heads and began to howl. The sound was haunting and beautiful. It echoed across the landscape and disappeared into the darkness. One by one, every dog joined the chorus until the night was filled with their voices. Corveth held his young companion close. What are they doing? Dr. Yethis recorded everything with shaking hands. I do not know. Some kind of communication. They are calling to something, or warning something. The howling continued for a long time. When it finally stopped, the dogs did not relax. They remained alert, watching the forest with intense focus. Something had heard them. Something was out there, and it was coming. Captain Threll looked at his frightened crew. Whatever happens, stay inside the ship. Let the creatures deal with whatever is out there. But even as he said the words, he wondered if the beasts who had protected them could handle what was approaching. The sensors were detecting movement. Something large. Something very, very large. The pack leader looked back at the aliens once. In his golden eyes, Yethis saw something she never expected to see in an animal. She saw determination. She saw courage. She saw a creature that would die to protect them. The human ship landed 1 kilometer from the crash site. Captain Elena Vasquez stepped out first, breathing deeply of the death world air. Her crew followed, carrying strange equipment that made the watching aliens very confused. Bags of small brown pellets. Colorful objects that squeaked when pressed. Long ropes with knots at each end. Not a single weapon. Captain, the first officer said nervously. Should we not bring some form of defense? Vasquez shook her head. We will not need it. Trust me. They walked through the forest toward the crashed ship. Vasquez moved with confidence, making no attempt to hide her presence. She even whistled a simple tune as she walked inside the quiet wanderer. The alien crew watched the approaching humans on their damaged sensors. They also watched the dog pack, which had become very alert. The animals were standing in a protective formation around the ship, facing the approaching strangers. The humans are going to be attacked, Captain Threll said. We must warn them. Dr. Yethis held up one of her thin arms. Wait, look at the pack leader. The old scarred dog was behaving strangely. His tail was moving, not the slow, cautious movement they had seen before. This was fast and excited. His whole body was shaking with some powerful emotion. Captain Vasquez emerged from the trees into the clearing. She stopped and looked at the pack of wild dogs surrounding the crashed ship. 20 pairs of eyes stared back at her. Then she did something that made every alien gasp with horror. She dropped to her knees and opened. "Hello? Beautiful babies," she called out in a warm voice. "Hello, gorgeous good boys and girls. Look at you. Look at how strong and brave you are." The pack leader moved forward slowly. Every alien held their breath. The massive predator approached the kneeling human, close enough to bite her head off with one snap of his powerful jaws. Vasquez reached up and grabbed his furry face with both hands. "Who is a good boy?" she said in a voice full of love. "Who is the best boy?" "You are, yes, you are." The dog's tail wagged so hard his entire back end moved with it. He pushed his face into Vasquez's hands. A sound came from his throat that was not a growl or a bark. It was a sound of pure happiness. Behind him, the other dogs began to approach. Their tails were wagging too. Some of them were jumping with excitement. One dog rolled onto its back, waving its paws in the air. Another began licking a human, crew member's face with great enthusiasm. The aliens watched this scene with complete confusion. "What is happening?" Captain Threll asked weakly. Dr. Yethis could not answer. Her scientific mind was struggling to process what she was seeing. Deadly predators were acting like happy children greeting their parents after a long absence. Vasquez stood up and walked toward the crashed ship. The dogs followed her like she was the most important being in the universe. When she reached the cargo bay entrance, she smiled at the terrified aliens inside. "You must be the survivors," she said calmly. "I am Captain Alina Vasquez. I am here to rescue you. But first let me explain what is happening." She sat down on a broken piece of hull. The pack leader immediately sat beside her, leaning against her leg. She scratched behind his ears as she spoke. "These animals are called dogs. 300 years ago, humans tried to live on this planet. We failed. The planet was too dangerous. But we did not come alone. We brought our dogs with us, as humans always do. When we had to leave, we could not take them all." She looked at the pack with sad eyes. We left them behind. "We thought they would die. But dogs are survivors. More than that, dogs are loyal. They did not forget us. For 300 years, through generation after generation, they remembered. They remembered that humans were their friends, their family, their pack. But we are not humans," Captain Threll pointed out. "We look nothing like you," Vasquez nodded. "That is the beautiful part. Dogs do not judge by appearance. They judge by behavior, by smell, by feeling. You were scared and helpless and in danger. Somewhere in their instincts, they recognized you as creatures who needed protection. And dogs protect." She looked at Corvith, who still had the young dog pressed against him. "Especially that one," Vasquez said with a smile. "She has chosen you. In her mind, you are her person now. Her person." Corvith repeated. "What does that mean?" "It means she will love you forever. It means she will protect you with her life. It means you are family." The young dog looked up at Corvith and licked his face. Despite his fear, despite everything he had been through, the amphibian engineer laughed. Dr. Yethis stepped forward slowly. The pack leader watched her approach with those calm golden eyes. "May I?" she asked Vasquez. "Of course. Just let him smell your hand first. Then you can pet him." Yethis extended her thin insectoid arm. The massive dog sniffed it carefully. His tail wagged. Then he pushed his head against her hand, asking to be touched. The scientist felt warm fur under her fingers. She felt the powerful muscles beneath the skin. She felt the heartbeat of a creature that could kill her in seconds, but chose instead to protect her. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why would any species evolve to be like this? To love strangers? To protect beings that are not their own kind?" Vasquez smiled. "Because 40,000 years ago, humans and wolves made a deal. We would share our food and our fire. They would share their loyalty and their strength. We grew together. We changed each other. They became dogs and we became ... better." She stood up and looked at the forest. "But we have a problem. The howling last night was a warning. Something big lives in this forest. Something that has been hunting this pack for a long time. It heard the commotion, and it is coming. Shadowmaw, Captain Threll said grimly. Our sensors detected it before they failed. A massive reptilian predator, Vasquez nodded. Then we need to prepare, because these good boys protected you when you were alone. Now it is our turn to help them. She looked at the pack of wild dogs that surrounded her. 300 years of isolation. 300 years of surviving on a death world. And they had never forgotten how to love. No one gets left behind, Vasquez said firmly. Not the aliens. Not the dogs. We all go home together. The pack leader stood up and barked once. Around him, the other dogs barked in response. It sounded almost like agreement. Almost like family. The Shadowmaw came at dusk. Dr. Yethis saw it first on the repaired sensors. A massive shape moving through the forest with terrible speed. 6 legs carried a body covered in dark scales. Its head was mostly mouth, filled with teeth designed to tear through anything. It is coming, she announced. 200 meters and closing. Captain Vasquez had spent the entire day preparing. She had organized the dogs into groups using simple commands and hand signals that somehow still worked after 3 centuries. The animals responded to her like soldiers responding to a general. Flanking teams, hold your positions, she said calmly. Center group, stay with me. Remember, we do not need to kill it. We just need to drive it away. The alien crew watched from inside the ship. They wanted to help, but Vasquez had ordered them to stay safe. This was not their fight. How can she be so calm? Corvith asked. His young dog, whom Vasquez had named Ripple, whimpered beside him. She wanted to be outside with her pack, but she refused to leave Corvath's side. Because she trusts them, Dr. Yethis answered. She trusts the dogs completely. The Shadowmaw burst from the trees. It was even more terrifying in person than on the sensors. 10 meters of muscle and hunger and death. Its eyes locked onto the crashed ship and the warm bodies. Inside, then it saw the dogs. The pack leader stood at the front of the defensive line. His name was Gray, Vasquez had decided. He was old and scarred from many battles. But he showed no fear as the monster approached. Gray barked once. A signal, the flanking teams moved. Dogs raced from both sides, snapping at the Shadowmaw's legs and tail. They did not try to fight directly. They darted in, bit, and retreated before the creature could strike back. They were harrying it, confusing it, making it impossible to focus on one target. The Shadowmaw roared with frustration. It spun around, trying to catch the attackers. But dogs were masters of this kind of fighting. Their ancestors had hunted creatures, much larger than themselves, using these same tactics. Vasquez and her human crew moved in with sonic deterrence. The high-pitched sounds hurt the Shadowmaw's sensitive hearing. It screamed and shook its massive head. For a moment, it seemed like the plan was working perfectly. Then the Shadowmaw got lucky. One massive claw caught a dog across the side, sending the animal flying. Another dog was knocked down by the creature's tail. The defensive line began to break. The monster saw its chance. It charged straight toward the crashed ship. Straight toward the aliens inside. Gray intercepted it. The old dog threw himself at the Shadowmaw's face. His teeth found the creature's eye. The monster screamed and reared back, throwing Gray to the ground. But the pack leader had bought precious seconds. Vasquez fired every deterrent she had directly at the Shadowmaw's head. The other dogs regrouped and attacked from all sides. The noise was deafening. Barking, roaring, screaming, the crack of sonic weapons. Slowly, painfully, the Shadowmaw began to retreat. It was not worth the pain. It was not worth the trouble. Easier prey existed elsewhere, with one final roar of frustration. The monster turned and ran back into the forest. The dogs did not chase it. They had one. That was enough. Vasquez ran to Gray immediately. The old dog was lying on his side, breathing hard. Blood matted his gray fur. The Shadowmaw's claw had torn a deep wound across his chest. No, Vasquez whispered. She pressed her hands against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Stay with me, boy. Stay with me. Gray looked up at her with pain-filled eyes. but his tail moved weakly. He was still trying to wag for her. Dr. Yethis rushed out of the ship. She had medical equipment in her hands. Let me help. I am a biologist. I understand animal physiology. Is a dog, Vasquez said desperately. Earth dog. You have never seen anything like him. Then teach me, Yethis answered firmly. Tell me what to do. I will not let him die. He protected us. Now we protect him. More aliens emerged from the ship. Corveth brought additional medical supplies. Captain Threll organized the other crew members to help. Even the human crew gathered around, offering whatever assistance they could. Vasquez took a deep breath and began giving instructions. Dogs have similar cardiovascular systems to many species. The wound needs to be cleaned and closed. Watch for signs of shock. Keep him warm. They worked together through the night. Human and alien hands moved side by side, fighting to save one old dog's life. The other dogs gathered around, watching silently. Ripple pressed against Corvath, whimpering softly. Why are you doing this? Vasquez asked Yethis quietly as they worked. Union protocol says to leave local wildlife behind. Why risk contamination? Why risk everything? Dr. Yethis did not look up from her work. Because he protected me. Because when those teeth could have killed me, he chose to guard me instead. I do not fully understand why. I do not need to understand. I only need to do what is right. She finally met Vesca's eyes. Is that not what dogs do? Protect without understanding. Love without reason? Vasquez smiled through her tears. Yes, that is exactly what dogs do. Dawn broke over the death world. Gray was still alive. His breathing was steady. His wound was closed. He was sleeping peacefully, surrounded by his pack and his new friends. Vasquez sat beside him, gently stroking his fur. Good boy, she whispered. Such a good, brave boy. Around her, aliens who had never seen a dog before today understood completely. Some things did not need explanation. Some bonds did not need words. Love was love, no matter what species you were. The evacuation shuttle was ready. The human ship had called for additional transport, and now a larger vessel waited in orbit to take everyone home. Everyone except the dogs. Sector Command has been very clear, the communication officer reported. Local wildlife cannot be transported. The dogs must remain on the planet. Captain Vasquez stood very still. Around her, the pack waited. Gray was recovering well, able to walk with assistance. Ripple had not left Corvath's side for even a moment. 20 dogs looked at the humans and aliens with trusting eyes. They had no idea what was being discussed. They only knew that their new friends were here. No, Vasquez said quietly, Captain. I said no. Her voice was firm. I am not leaving them behind. Humans abandoned these dogs once. 300 years ago, we left them on this death world to die. I will not do it again. Yethis stepped forward. I agree with Captain Vasquez. These animals displayed intelligence, loyalty, and sacrifice beyond anything I have ever observed. They saved our lives. We cannot simply abandon them. The regulations are clear, the communication officer argued. Unknown pathogens, ecosystem disruption, quarantine requirements, ... Then we will meet the requirements, Yethis interrupted. I am a certified xenobiologist. I will personally oversee quarantine procedures. I will conduct every test, complete every form, satisfy every regulation. But we are not leaving these dogs behind. Corvath stood up. Ripple stood with him. I will help. I will do whatever is needed. One by one, the other alien survivors joined them. Captain Threll, the engineers, the scientists. Every single member of the Quiet Wanderers crew stood with the humans. The communication officer sighed. I will need to contact Sector Command again. You do that, Vasquez? Said Vasquez. Meanwhile, I am going to make some calls of my own. She walked away and activated a private communication channel. The aliens could not hear what she said, but they saw her expression change from determination to relief to something like joy. When she returned, she was smiling. I called in some favors, she explained. A human colony ship was passing through the sector. They have agreed to divert and pick up the entire pack. The dogs will be taken to a rehabilitation center where they can receive proper care. Those who can be domesticated again will be placed with families. Those who cannot will live in a protected sanctuary. All of them. Corveth asked hopefully. Even Ripple. Vasquez looked at the young dog pressed against his side. Then she looked at Corvath's hopeful face. Actually, she said slowly, I had a different idea for Ripple. If you are willing. 6 months later, Dr. Yethis stood before the Galactic Science Council. The great chamber was filled with representatives from 100 species. They had all come to hear her report on the incident. She spoke for a long time about pack behavior and protective instincts. She presented data on communication patterns and social structures. But when she reached her conclusion, she set aside her notes and spoke from her heart. We have spent many years studying humans, she said. We have classified them as Deathworlders. We have noted their capacity for violence. We have feared their strength. But we were looking at the wrong things. She paused to gather her thoughts. 40,000 years ago, humans formed a bond with wolves. They shared food and warmth. They protected each other. Over time, wolves became dogs. They became loyal beyond reason. They became loving beyond measure. They became creatures who would die to protect those they cared about. But here's what amazes me most. Humans did not create this loyalty through force or training. They created it through love. They gave love freely, and they received it back 1,000 times over. On that death world, dogs who had never seen humans recognized us as creatures worth protecting. Not because we looked like humans, not because we smelled like humans, but because we were small and scared and needed help, and dogs help. That is what they do. That is what humans taught them to be. Yethis looked around the great chamber. If we want to understand humans, we should not study their weapons or their wars. We should study their dogs. Because dogs show us what humans truly value: loyalty, love, the choice to protect the weak and vulnerable, the refusal to abandon those who depend on you. The Deathworlders call them good boys. I cannot think of a better description. She stepped back from the podium. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then applause began, spreading through the crowd like a wave, far away. On a Drenith research station, Corveth heard the news about Yethis's speech. He smiled and reached down to scratch behind Ripple's ears. The dog looked up at him, with pure adoration in her brown eyes. She was the first non-human emotional support animal officially recognized by the Galactic Union. Her certificate hung on Corvath's wall, signed by Captain Vasquez herself. You started something big, Corvath told her. Because of you, every species in the Union wants to know more about dogs. The humans are so happy. They get to share their good boys with the entire galaxy. Ripple wagged her tail and licked his face. On 100 worlds, the story spread. The tale of stranded aliens saved by creatures they did not understand. The bond between humans and dogs that had survived 300 years of separation. The choice to never leave anyone behind. And everywhere the story went, beings of every shape and size began to wonder, what would it be like to have a friend like that? A companion who loved without condition? A protector who would face monsters without hesitation? What would it be like to have a good boy of their own? The humans were happy to show them Gray, fully recovered, spent his remaining years at the rehabilitation center, helping scared dogs learn to trust again. He became famous throughout human space as the dog who protected aliens. Captain Vasquez visited him often. She would sit beside him in the sunshine, scratching his old gray head, telling him what a good boy he was, and Gray would wag his tail, content in the knowledge that his humans had finally come home, all of them together pack.